Hello, everybody. How you doing? Hello, hello, hello. My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. Starting roughly on time today. I'm very proud of myself. So today we are going to be talking about conservative Christofascist misinformation because I'm seeing a lot of. Oh wait, that's backwards. Sorry, give me a second. Technical difficulties here. Much better. Okay. So, let's take a look at what we're working on first. We started something new last week. I think we'll continue on with this. We got sort of our evil demon looking kind of guy, you know, made his head a little bit too big for his body, but that's all right. We can adjust all that. I think we'll continue on with this for the time being. So, how many of you guys have been following the Hunter Biden laptop story? I really haven't myself. I kind of thought it was a load of shit. Right. But there has been a development here. So, for those of you guys who don't know the Hunter Biden laptop story, it is a classic example of propaganda and misinformation coming in from our um, right wing friends. So, about right around October before the 2020 election, you know, um, the laptop, Hunter Biden's laptop dropped. That's what they like to call an October surprise in the, and the meaning from that is what that usually means is that some big scandal usually pops up right around October, a month or so before the actual election, just in time to swing those last minute, you know, swing voters or whatever. And that's been a tradition that's been happening for, at least since the Reagan era, where he, you know, kind of coined that from the Reagan era is where that originally came from. We can talk about the history of that some other time. So anyway, what it was that somehow Hunter Biden, who is a millionaire, Hunter Biden is rich. Let's not forget. He's also kind of a screw up, crack addict, stuff like that, right? And somehow he left a laptop in Boston, even though Hunter Biden lives on the opposite coast from that. He lives on the West Coast. But somehow he went into a laptop repair shop in Boston, dropped off his laptop there, and just never picked it up. And the guy that runs the laptop swears it was him. He just happens to be like, legally blind. Right? Swears it was Hunter Biden. And on this laptop is a bunch of very bad stuff. You know, photos and pictures of mainly of Hunter Biden smoking crack and getting on with prostitutes, things like that. There's been claims of very bad things on this laptop having to do with underage children and the CP word that we're not supposed to say on YouTube, stuff like that. But so far, no actual proof of anything has been released or leaked. And as a matter of fact, lots of fake things came out. Lots of fake photos were released of Hunter Biden and various people. Right. So that kind of hit right before the election, and of course, it was a major dud because, first off, no one gives a shit about Hunter Biden. So this is the thing that the conservatives don't understand, right? That the MAGA people they think that this is somehow a dirt on Joe Biden himself, right? And this is essentially what the Hunter Biden laptop thing all was to begin with. It was a smear, right? Basically, just hey, look how bad this family is. Oh, by the way, you know, basically it's an idea of trying to get people to transfer the hate. It's like, oh, this guy's son does all these horrible things. He must be a monster as well. And in real life, it's like, well, Hunter Biden doesn't actually have anything to do with the actual government. He's not in the government. Joe Biden did not appoint his son to any government positions. Kind of like, unlike how Donald Trump did with his daughter and his son-in-law. He didn't put Hunter Biden in charge of anything. For example, like, say, like, oh, I don't know, peace in the Middle East, or the pandemic, the same way Trump did with his children, right? I mean, maybe that's sort of a reason why both of those things were utter fucking failures during the Trump years, is because he put Ivanka and fucking Jared Kushner in charge of that shit instead of like somebody with a brain. Anyway, so the newest development in this story is that 4chan has supposedly leaked Hunter Biden's iPhone. And when they say leaked, if it's actually true that these images and videos come from Hunter Biden's iPhone, it's most likely that someone who works at Apple was the person who leaked it rather than, because the actual 4chan threads where they were claiming that they were hacking the phone didn't really seem to be like that. They were very fishy. You can't just hack an iPhone like that. It's encryption, it's not that easy, right? And the actual threads, they were making it like, oh, here, I just cracked it 5 minutes ago. Here you go. And they were dumping shit, right? The majority of it is, like I said before, the exact same stuff that was on the laptop. Lots of pictures of Hunter smoking crack and weighing crack rocks, and you know getting it on with call girls and stuff like that, who people are claiming are underage, but nobody has actually any proof that they are. Right. And then also some other things, some chat logs. Apparently, the rumor is that there's a guy named Pedo Peter saved in Hunter Biden's contacts, and then that's his name for his father. And everybody's like, oh, this must mean that Joe Biden's a pedo and all this other crap. And it's like, well, just because somebody else saves your name, even if that is supposed to be him, right? Like, which there has been, as far as I can tell, no definitive proof that that Pedo Peter actually is Joe Biden. But even if it was, it's like, just because somebody saves your name in their phone contacts um, a certain way doesn't actually mean you're guilty of any crime. That's kind of not how that works. It is, like I said before, a smear. It's a smear. And it's funny how this smear is coming out right when we have these January 6th, hearings, when lots of very, very bad things are coming out about Trump and you know, his attempt to steal the election and all that. What a coincidence that suddenly it's like, oh yeah, by the way, Hunter Biden's laptop. Look what a bad piece of shit Hunter Biden is. Blah, blah, blah. Distract, distract, distract. Right? So there's a couple of things, because most of the shit looks to be real. Okay? I mean, even the videos of Hunter weighing crack rocks and stuff, it's real. Okay? It looks pretty fucking real to me. Right? Some of it, however, is misinformation. Right? So here's a tweet, for example. This tweet does not actually show, I'm not going to, there's no actual nudity, anything like that, right? But I'm going to, let me just turn on my laptop. Here's a tweet from a guy named Jurgen Ignito, right? Saying, if we translate this, I think this is in Portuguese. So let's translate this. This supposedly is from Hunter Biden's iPhone. His half-naked niece with coke up her nose, the photo taken by him, of course. Now, I'm not going to click on this because there is some questionable shit going on with this picture. But they're trying to say that this woman here is actually Hunter Biden's niece. In real life, this is not his niece. This is a cam girl, and she doesn't have cocaine in her nose. She has a nose ring, her septum, like the middle of your nose. She's got a nose ring. Just kind of goes to show you, it's like, okay, well, the pictures apparently and videos of Hunter Biden doing drugs and like banging prostitutes wasn't enough. They have to, they're basically inventing some scandals, trying to get it to, trying to make, make it look like he's some kind of like, you know, that he's banging his own, like he's sexually molesting his own niece and shit like that. This photo, of course, is not real. This is part of the misinformation that's being spread around here. I will copy this and put it down in the chat for you guys. If you want to look at the complete picture for yourself, I'm not going to do it on YouTube. Another one. Here's one that I found on Reddit. Right, let's open this up. Hunter Biden and George Soros out for a drive. White boy summer. This is, of course, in the famously non-biased conspiracy subreddit, which is totally not a hellhole of right-wing MAGA, you know, Adderall-brained bullshit, right? But this is the claim. The claim is that Hunter Biden is taking a selfie of himself with George Soros driving the car. Please remember, George Soros is like 93 years old or something at this point. He's like not even if this picture was taken 10 years ago, he still would not be driving his car. And it's obviously not been taken 10 years ago because this is a current photo of Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is like 47 or some shit like that at this point. And Hunter Biden looks 10 years older than he actually is because of years of hard living. You know, crack will do that to you. Right. But yeah, this is not even George Soros. If you look at this picture and compare it with a current picture of George Soros, or even a picture of George Soros from 15 years ago, it still is not George Soros. Let's see, how old is George Soros? Anyway, let me take a look at this here. Let's see. I think George Soros is like fucking like 92 or some shit like that. Right? He's got to be at least, he's 91. He was born in 1930. Does that look like a 91-year-old man to you? Right. Obvious bullshit. Obvious bullshit. Right. Let's go ahead and close that. Put that back over here. Okay. That's down in the chat for you guys as well. Another one. This is supposedly of Joe Biden. Let me just, I have this as a separate image. Let me just set this up because it is not as accessible as the rest of these. Give me a second. Okay. Let me just make that bigger. One more for you guys when it comes to this, right? This is supposedly a picture that is being spread around that supposedly came from Hunter Biden's iPhone. You can see that it's being spread around on 4chan here. And the idea is that this is supposed to be Joe Biden and a young girl right here, you know, implying that it is, of course, a girl who's underage. And I went, because this was a little transparent, so I actually blacked all of this out. There actually wasn't any nudity here to begin with, but just to be safe, I blocked it all out because I don't want YouTube giving me any shit. This is, of course, not Joe Biden. This is from a porn video, which is up on X videos now, called Old Man Spanks His Sex Slave. And you can find it. I'm not going to put a link to that in the chat. You can go to xvideos.com and search for that yourself. Let's turn that off before somebody reports me. Right. So, just kind of goes to show, you know, like the actual damning photos and videos that are on, you know, that are being spread around of Hunter Biden doing bad stuff, you know, apparently those aren't good enough, right? The videos of him smoking crack, of doing drugs, of running around naked, of banging prostitutes, of doing all kinds of shit that would, like, basically ruin someone's career if it were to come out, say, 15 or 20 years ago. Nowadays people don't give a shit anymore. All of these things apparently were not bad enough. They weren't apparently creating enough controversy for the people on the right wing, and they have to decide to just make shit up in order to make the leak even worse than it actually is. You know, because you would think that would be enough. You would think just one photograph, for example, of somebody smoking crack would be enough to just ruin them professionally forever. That nobody would ever want to do business with that person again. No one would ever vote for that person. I mean, even though Hunter Biden is not a politician, let's keep that in mind. He's not a politician. He's like a business person that, I don't know, makes money off of his family name or some shit. Even the exact same way that the Trump children do as well. Let's not try to pretend that he's any different in that regard. You know, that's how these people make money, through their fucking families and shit like that. They're all a bunch of talentless, like, parasites. They are. They're all a bunch of talentless parasites, and the reason they're talentless fucking, parasites is because they grew up with silver spoons in their mouths, getting everything they ever fucking wanted their entire lives, and so they never had to apply themselves for anything. That there's nothing like getting everything you've ever wanted since the minute you could, like, walk, to stunt your actual growth, when it comes to ability, right? I'm sure they're all very highly educated, because you can just basically buy that, but you know, not being actually developing talent and common sense and ambition and being a good person on top of all of that, that doesn't come with wealth. That comes with, building character, right? And there's nothing that stops you from actually building character, and building character and learning what responsibility is and all that. Nothing stops that more than a shitload of money, which is the reason why rich kids are always such fuck ups, if you've ever noticed. I'm sure I'm not the only person to notice that rich kids always tend to be complete fuck ups. And eventually they get it together once they get the money, but sometimes they don't. You know, Donald Trump himself is a perfect example of what happens when a rich person gets everything. A person who was born with millions of dollars, from the moment that they were conceived as a zygote and shit, they had more money than 90% of everybody on Earth. He's a perfect fucking example of what that does to somebody. Turns them into a complete fucking raging crazy person with ambition, who thinks that they deserve things like, being the president when they fucking lose the election. Anyway, why am I talking about all this, right? Why am I bringing up the Hunter laptop iPhone thing, you know, when really it's essentially bullshit, and, why and nobody on Earth should fucking give a fuck about this, because, Hunter Biden, of course, once again, is not the president, nor is he in charge of anything. He's just the president's idiot son. Why am I bringing this up? Because conservatives and Republicans believe some very nasty things. This is why I'm bringing this up. Conservatives and Republicans and the alt-right and assorted right-wingers of all types, the Christofascists, the conservative Christians, all those people, they believe in very, very bad things, very vile things, right? They support, for example, policies which directly result in harm, whether that's support, like, for unfettered, unregulated gun rights, which result in mass shootings, whether that's the refusal to support things like, say, universal healthcare programs or welfare, or blocking environmental policies, things like that. Their tendency to want to defund public schooling, but then also have the government fund things like, say, religious schooling, stuff like that. Their predilection to remove human rights that contradict their magic fucking book, right? Like, the right to bodily autonomy, the right to love someone that love and have sex with whoever the fuck you feel like, regardless of what anybody else thinks. You know, these are all things that conservatives and Republicans and conservative Christians and all of those other right wing, alt right assorted douchebags all believe. And these policies are very, very bad, and they result very much in measurable harm and human suffering when their policies are enacted. You know, the recent abortion bans around the country are a perfect example of that. So, whenever something actually does happen, which is a result of these policies, the conservatives and the right wing in this country, especially the people who are online, the right wing presence online, usually goes into damage mode instead of trying to, confront why this thing happened, why this event happened, and how it's directly related to something that they support. The response from the right wingers when something like this happens is usually to lie and make up some bullshit about it, which is exactly what's going on with the Hunter Biden thing, which is exactly what's going on with the with mass shootings, with school shootings, with environmental policy, right? A pretty good example of this, you know, is that every time there's um, a police shooting of an unarmed black person in this country, every time this happens, which is very much an extremely common occurrence now, right? The misinformation begins flying around immediately. And this happens every single time one of these stories pops up in the news. You hear about somebody like Philando Castile, for example, right? Rumors and like internet rumors get started, and usually these things start at like 4chan, but not always. Sometimes they start at other places, because now we have all of these sort of like right wing alternative media spaces like Rumble, like fucking Vote. Although I think Vote's not around anymore. True Social now is a big player. Donald Trump's like fucking Twitter ripoff. You have all of these different. Oh wow, my mic is like rubbing on something. Sorry about that. You have all of these different. Um, let me turn that down just a little. There we go. You have all of these different like alternative right wing media spheres, right, where this information gets spread around. And sometimes it can actually, get spread around a lot, and then mainstream media places pick it up. And that's, just leads to muddying the waters. And that's the entire point of this type of thing. For example, when George Floyd was killed, which led to the George Floyd movement, right? The conspiracy theory crowd, the right wing, went into overdrive trying to discredit George Floyd, to come up with some kind of way in which they could blame it on him. He was a criminal, so you started seeing all of these fucking rumors get spreading around that he was a criminal, that he was a drug dealer, right? That he deserved it, that he just murdered somebody, whatever, stuff like that, that he was like a part of like a fucking gang member and all this shit, and was like dealing like, fentanyl to children. All of this is unsubstantiated, right? And also irrelevant because even if he was a drug dealer, cop still isn't allowed to just strangle somebody. Even if he was doing half the shit, if he did have a criminal record, it doesn't matter. Cop is still not allowed to just execute you. You know, you're supposed to get a trial in this country. You're supposed to get arrested, right? And the police are supposed to protect you, number one. Number two, when they do arrest you, they're supposed to take you in for whatever crime that you did. You're supposed to get a lawyer and the ability to defend yourself and a fucking trial in front of a jury of your peers. That's what's supposed to fucking happen, right? Even if you do have a criminal record, cop is not allowed to just decide to execute you on the street. Doesn't fucking matter. Even if you do resist, police should use proportional force, which does not result in you fucking dying. Okay? Even if somebody does resist, all right, there's supposed to be steps. It's like, is he resisting a little? Then you put him in a, headlock or some shit, or you put him in, like, handcuffs. You hold him from behind, you detain him, whatever, right? You have tasers for this reason, too. Somebody's being extremely violent, normal fucking procedures don't work, You're like holding them down, it's not working, tase them a little bit. Shit like that. There's supposed to be stages of proportional force that the police are supposed to be trained to undergo, right? And time again, over and over, we keep seeing that, cops don't actually do that shit. They just jump straight to the fucking lethal force, you know? And even people who aren't resisting, they'll threaten to fucking beat them up and shit like that if they don't shut up. It's like, no, that's bullshit. I just saw a video of the other day. I joined this channel called Citizen Audits. Like, I really love. This is kind of a side note, but fuck it, I'm gonna talk about it. I really love YouTube videos of people auditing the police. Have you ever seen those where somebody goes and they like videotape themselves and then like a cop comes up and they like cite the law to the cop and all this and all that stuff, and then 9 times out of 10 the cop just threatens to kick their ass or whatever, or threatens to, like, arrest them, that kind of thing. And they sometimes they even do get arrested, and then they take it all to court and all that, and they sue the police. They basically, that's called auditing the police, right? I love watching those videos. I do not recommend anybody actually do this because these people are like out of their fucking minds as far as I'm concerned. I would never do this myself, right? But these types of citizen activists are, I think, a needed thing nowadays because we're, this is one way that you can fucking strike back against the police state, right? And I'm watching one of these recently. I don't have the link in front of me. I should put it down there. And, you know, cop is arresting this guy for one reason or another. I think what it is, they show up at his house. He tries to close the door, and then they like burst it. Then they fucking push their way in. They don't have a warrant, anything like that. And then and it was because you're harassing city. There was some story about him like harassing city hall or some shit like that. That's irrelevant. But the part I wanted to talk about is that as they're putting him in the car, the guy turns his head to look at the cop as he's talking to him, and the cop says, basically tells him if he turns his head around, he's gonna beat his ass, like in so many words. And it's like, man, that just shit like that, right? These things happen all the fucking time. It's like police officers more often than not, they're just normal fucking people, but they're people who have been trained to basically, like they have this attitude that fucking they can do whatever the fuck they want to you, and more often than not they can, because who's gonna stop them? What's gonna happen? What would happen if that cop decided just to beat the dude's ass? Like, nothing. Nothing would fucking happen. He'd get away with it, because that's the kind of country we live in. So that's why I think it's like necessary that people fucking that I'm glad that there's these types of like audit the police, um, activists, even though I would never fucking do it in my entire life. Anyway, that was a total side tangent. Sorry about that. But the point I'm trying to make is that rumors get spread around. Rumors get spread around, misinformation gets spread around, especially when it comes to something like, say, black people being, black unarmed men being blown away by cops. You start seeing all these, like, misinformation getting spread around. I've seen For example, going back to the George Floyd example, shortly after George Floyd was killed, lots of misinformation was spread about him, that he was a drug dealer, that his death was faked. That was a funny one. The conspiracy theories jumped around about how this whole thing was fake, it was phony, it was all put on by the government in order to, by the Illuminati or whatever, in order to start civil unrest. That, of course, George Floyd was still alive, right? Here's one that I saw on Twitter. George Floyd's death was an execution and part of a military intelligence operation. The person who tweeted that, however, his Twitter account has been removed, unfortunately. I would like to see what else that guy had to say. Another one was that Chauvin, the guy that you know, strangled George Floyd to death with his putting a knee on his fucking neck, right? That he was wearing a "Make Whites Again Great Again" hat. That was also not true. The guy may well have been a racist. We don't know specifically if he was a white supremacist or anything like that, but he was not wearing any hats that said anything close to that, right? The biggest one I've heard, however, about George Floyd was that George Floyd was not actually strangled, but rather died of a fentanyl overdose, right? And apparently he did have fentanyl in his system, but that's not usually how fentanyl overdoses work. You're not just fine and then suddenly decide, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna overdose right when there's a cop, like, planting his fucking knee on your neck and blocking your windpipe and shit, right? That's complete bullshit too. But I heard that one over and over and over and over from multiple sources on Reddit, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and elsewhere. And that's one. And here's the thing about these, right? The thing about these is that when people spread misinformation like this, right, it doesn't matter if it gets debunked, right? It really doesn't matter. It's like there will be people now who will forever believe that George Floyd was murdered by Russian intelligence. There will be people now who will forever, until the day they die, believe that George Floyd, died of a fentanyl overdose and was not strangled to death by Derek Chauvin, right? There are people now who will believe forever that this whole thing was just like a fake staged execution, and that there was, like, and it was like really the fucking, like, Illuminati and shit setting this up so that there'd be civil unrest, and then, like, I don't know, Trump would lose the election or something. Right? And that's the thing, is that it doesn't fucking matter if there could be a thing like the exact same day that debunks the conspiracy theory, and it doesn't matter. The damage is already done, you know, because people believe conspiracy theories not based on any facts. They believe them based on their feelings. They believe in conspiracy theories because conspiracy theories make them feel good, and they reinforce their pre you know preconceptions and biases, and make them feel like they're part of, like, some special elite group that has the super secret info and all that stuff, because people's lives are fucking empty. We see the same thing happening with mass shootings constantly, all the time. After the Vegas shooting, right? If you remember the Vegas shooting a few years back, a guy named Stephen Paddock goes up, rents a room overlooking a country music festival, and sprays out the window, kills something like 50 people, something like that. I don't have the details of the actual shooting in front of me, but it was pretty fucking bad. It was one of the bigger mass shootings in this country, as far as like casualties go. As soon as that started happening, like literally the day that started happening, people on 4chan and on all of the alternative right-wing media sphere started spreading rumors that this guy was a socialist, that he was a communist. This dude, Stephen Paddock, right? I have a news article here for you guys. Let's open this up. Let me put this down in the thing for you first. Here's what I'm going to be reading from Vox, right? Let's turn this on. Okay. Most people saw Las Vegas shooting as a tragedy. Propagandists saw an opportunity, right? Fake rumors designed to spread anti-leftist bias, including making up victims, wrongly identifying the shooter, and feeding false narratives to media. Let's read a little bit of this, though. Just, because these things are informative, right? Following this weekend's deadly mass shooting in Las Vegas, this is back in 2017 is when this happened, right? I think it was 2017? Yeah, it was October. Okay. Numerous rumors centered on fake victims and misinformation about the tragedy have circulated across social media. Amid those rumors was a series of deliberate hoaxes that originated from a variety of sources, including 4chan's alt-right stronghold Poll, a fake Facebook page claiming that the shooter, Stephen Paddock, was a member of Antifa, and several troll accounts on Facebook and Twitter. Right? In other words, during a moment when most people were reeling in horror and seeking information about the terrible event that killed more than 50 people and injured over 500. Jesus Christ. Injured over 500 more. A smaller subset of a small opportunity. It saw a small opportunity. A chance to spread rumors and falsehoods on the internet. And in some cases, those rumors and falsehoods were seemingly fabricated by individuals or groups connected to the alt-right with the specific intention of destabilizing their political opponents. And that's exactly what it is, folks. That's exactly what it is. All this stuff gets spread around by people on the alt-right, by conservatives, right? By gun activists, right? And usual general shenanigans, right? They get spread around in order to convince people that it was all the fault of the evil commies, of the evil leftists and stuff like that. In real life, this guy Stephen Paddock, right? Let's go ahead and turn this off. We're not going to read any more of this. But you could read the rest of this if you want. It's actually a pretty informative article that dives a little bit into what I'm trying to express with this stream here, right? In real life, this guy, Stephen Paddock, was a conspiracy theorist. You can see in the article, it talks about how he was overheard at a restaurant discussing the Ruby Ridge standoff and the Waco siege. For those of you guys who don't know, we actually did a stream on both of these. In our stream discussing the origins of militia movements from about maybe 6 or 7 months ago. We talked about these. Basically, what that is Ruby Ridge was and Waco. Like Ruby Ridge was a family that was held up in a cabin, and on gun charges and shit like that, and resulted in like this guy and his son getting murdered by the shot by police because they were shooting at police, and then the police shot back and some other things. Waco, of course, is the Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas, this like deranged end of the world cult where the ATF like kind of flubbed it. Well, not more than just kind of, like completely flubbed it. Right, and it was a standoff which resulted in the building burning down and the deaths of dozens of children. Both pretty big screw ups back in the late 80s and early 90s on the government's part, and these were events which contributed to the rise of the modern American right wing militia movement. These were both events that sort of galvanized those movements and got them started. Of course, militias have been around for a very, very long time in this country, going all the way back to the 1950s. But these two movements sort of like spurned the growth of the modern militia movement through things like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys are sort of like direct descendants of these militia groups of the 90s, right? So Very worth worth reading. And if you have more, if you want to see me talk about malicious stuff, I'll put the link down in the chat after the stream's done with. I have like a whole 2 hour stream all about the militia movements in the 90s. It's very interesting stuff. Very interesting because a lot of these people are still around, right? A lot of the movements are still around, and they believe the exact same shit that you see coming out of places like the Three Percenters and the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. It's all the exact same shit that these fucking like insane white supremacists believed in the 90s, right? Anyway, so yeah, that was one thing. They saw he was talking about that. They have supposedly the guy was discussing the admiralty flag that you see in a courtroom. Like in a courtroom, the American flag has a gold fringe on the side, and supposedly that's like a maritime flag, and that means it's a fucking like maritime court and all that. This is like sovereign citizen shit. So supposedly that, yeah, the Las Vegas shooter was a fucking like tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy crazy, right? And was very much a right wing person, but 4chan and all the other people, the alt right, had to spread rumors about him because once again, he is someone that this is a result of conservative policies. So instead of and facing what their policy does to people and like maybe I don't know endorsing a different policy to make the world a better place, these guys decide to spread lies about it because that's what we're dealing with, folks. We're not dealing with you know honest actors. We're not dealing with people who care about what's true and what's right, you know and what's will actually help people. We're dealing with ideologues here, right? And to an ideologue, telling a lie is not bad you know, if it furthers along your cause, right? Which is always one thing I always like to use whenever, as a side note, whenever I do engage with, like, say, a conservative Christian Christofascist person online, and I catch them telling lies, one thing I always like to say is, does God like it when you lie? What you just told me was a lie. Do you think God approves that you're lying and you're fucking lying? Right? And it's always great to just sort of see that cognitive dissonance, you know, how somebody justifies in their mind, doing something that's completely against what they supposedly stand for. Anyway, the best example of this kind of misinformation is probably Sandy Hook. So, I'm sure you all know all about Sandy Hook. Very quick recap. It was in 2012, and grade school. Somebody goes in, blows away a bunch of children. Right. The thing about Sandy Hook is that this was at that time. There were mass shootings, of course, before Sandy Hook, but they weren't as prevalent. Mass shootings seem to be more of like you got like say Columbine or something like that, but they weren't like a weekly occurrence like they are today. Mass shootings were still very much a terrible thing, and the right wing was still supposedly appalled of them back in 2012. Nowadays they don't give a fuck anymore. You ever notice a mass shooting, whatever, blah blah blah. Absolutely nothing fucking changes. Back then people were still, you know, horrified that a madman could get into a school and kill 15 or 20 children. That, there was an actual danger of some actual real gun control getting through because of Sandy Hook. And the right wing went nuts because there's the conspiracy theory on the right wing is that, and I'm not making this up, I wish I were. The conspiracy theory is that mass shootings are, in fact, a function of the deep state who is creating either these mass shooters, or according to the conspiracy theory people, according to the right wing conspiratard, tinfoil hat wearing, Adderall fucking addicted, like, insane spurgs, right? Conspiracy fucking nutbags. The mass shooters, according to these people, are all sort of like either agents or sort of like, Manchurian candidate types who are being manipulated and armed by the government so that they'll go nuts and then go out and kill a bunch of people so that people will want gun control. So that way, after they get gun control, they can go and, like, finally, throw everybody into FEMA camps and shit like that. That's what it is. That's the conspiracy theory. And this was even the conspiracy back in 2012. It was the same thing, which just kind of goes to show that none of this shit is new. Like, so if you ever do talk to a conspiracy theory person and they like bring this shit up, like, just remember the shit they believe is like people were saying, talking about that kind of thing back in the 90s about gun control and how it's like back in the 90s it was all drive-by shootings and stuff, and everybody was like, see, they're just gonna like gangs and drive-by shootings, and they're just gonna like use these as an excuse to take away our guns and blah 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 blah, right? And now it's like school shootings and like mass shootings. It's the exact same fucking thing, the exact same conspiracy theory. Just, so remember, none of this stuff is like new or like even fucking like, you know it's not even like a new development or like a new idea. It's just recycling the same shit over and over and over, right? Let's see. Yeah, that looks like shit. We're gonna erase that leg. That looks bad. Anyway, so yeah, but that's the idea. So even back in 2012, once this happened, right? Obviously, it couldn't be real, because responsible gun owners don't go on fucking murder sprees. Obviously, it must be some kind of plan to take away everybody's guns, right? And so you started seeing people like Alex Jones, for example, just creating wild conspiracy theories that the families of the Sandy Hook were like, crisis actors and shit like that, right? And videos started getting pulled around. There's a video of one of the Sandy Hook fathers being interviewed where he actually smiles and then does his interview. And it's like, oh, so obviously the guy's an actor because he smiled. Like, and it's like, yeah, well, people go through grief in different ways. It doesn't fucking matter just because you like, you know, it's, I mean, you ever been to a funeral of someone who's died recently? Plenty of people smile at funerals, right? Because it's like a normal human interaction, and people like don't dealing with grief in the same way. Not everybody is like a, wailing on the ground, crying like a fucking mad person, you know. So it's like, no, you can't. I mean, it's so. First off, it's bullshit. Secondly, it's so fucking heartless. It's so heartless to like do something like that. Like to I don't know. I mean, can you imagine if you're like, yeah, you had your child and your child gets blown away at a fucking school, and then like for like years afterwards, like crazy people on the internet just keep fucking with you, you know? Because that's what happened to the people in Sandy Hook. Just abuse and like insane fucking conspiracy theorists just screwing with them over and over and over for years. I've got an actual here's another article, right? That I want to read from you guys. Let me just pause that. Let's turn on my laptop here. But before we do this, we're not going to read the whole thing, of course. But I'll put this down in the chat for you guys so that you can follow along. Sandy Hook conspiracy theorist says she's proud to harass families of children who were killed in mass shootings. This is dated June 13th, 2022, right? Sandy Hook happened in 2012. This is 10 years later. People are harassing these families. Okay. To prove the world you've lost your son, Kelly Watt wrote under the username 8 Great Great Mom to Lenny Ponzer, whose 6-year-old Noah was killed in the 2012 Sandy Hook Elementary School mass shooting. A suburban Tulsa, Oklahoma grandmother of 2, Watt has spent the greater part of the past decade researching mass shootings, which she considers false flag operations intended to push gun control legislation. Told you. Through the U.S. government, despite the fact that no significant legislation has been passed in response to such shooting. Her research involves sending harassing messages to surviving family members of people who have died in mass shootings, including the attack at Sandy Hook Elementary School that left 20 first-grade students and 6 adults dead. I just had a strong sense that this didn't happen, she said in an interview with Elizabeth Williamson. Too many of those parents just rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah. Let's read some more here. She said she spent hours trying to prove her baseless claims about Sandy Hook. Some of the theories are the photos of the shooter's bedroom were too barren to have a teenager living in it. Chris and Lynn McDonald, whose 7-year-old Grace was killed in the shooting, didn't cry enough for parents who just lost a daughter, and other parents were too old to have kids that age. So that's her research. Her research is, oh, you look too old to have a kid. Oh, your bedroom doesn't have enough crap in it. Oh, you didn't cry enough. No, if you really had a daughter, you'd cry more. If your son was killed, you'd be bawling on the ground. It absolutely fucking ridiculous. Let's read a little more. But nothing, not even proof that she's wrong, has dissuaded Watt from her theories, which are in line with those published by the likes of InfoWars host Alex Jones, who was found liable at least for 4 defamation cases for spreading lies that the Sandy Hook shooting was a hoax. For example, Watt spent several years trying to prove that no company had been contacted to clean the elementary school crime scene. When presented with the names of the businesses and police report, Watt was momentarily silent before casting further doubt on the evidence. I haven't seen that document. Where are the receipts? And that just kind of goes to show right there. It doesn't matter when you come to conspiracy theorists. Let's turn this shit off, right? Let's fucking turn this shit off. When it comes to conspiracy theorists, proof doesn't matter. Like the article just said, you know, somebody went showed this woman, like, so this woman had a fucking dumb shit conspiracy theory, you know, that nobody cleaned the fucking like room or whatever. When showed evidence that disrupted, that completely contradicted her claims, first thing she does is double down on it, right? It's because it's not about facts. Conspiracy theories are not about facts. They're about feelings, right? It's basically the same sorts of feelings that one gets from a religion, because that's what conspiracy theories basically are. Conspiracy theories are essentially religion. The same way that if I were to go to you, if I were to go to, like, say, Pat Robertson, and if I were to say have absolute proof that Jesus did not exist, let's just say that. Let's say I had a video, right? Like, I went back in time and I took a video of, you know, someone on the cross who they say was Jesus Christ, and I had a video of him dying, and then a video of him like being picked apart by fucking crows and not resurrecting, right? That still would not change anything of what Pat Robertson actually believes. Pat Robertson would just double down on it and believe even harder, right? Because it's not about facts with these people, right? It's like belief. When you're that sort of faith in something, like it's the same way with religious belief. Religious belief is not about facts. It's about what it makes you feel inside, and it's about your community and who you identify as, right? The people who believe what they believe are the good guys. The people that believe otherwise are the bad guys. And it doesn't fucking matter what you say to them. That will never be shaken whatsoever. It doesn't matter what people do who believe the same shit that they believe. You know, so if a conspiracy theorist gets up on a building and at a fucking country music festival and murders 50 people. That doesn't matter. That still doesn't like shake their faith. The same way that Catholics do not have their faith shaken when a priest gets, arrested for, not keeping his hands off the altar boys. Same way that doesn't fucking matter. The same way that evangelicals and Protestants, you know, their faith does not get shaken when fucking like one of the TV preachers that they send their life savings to gets busted with a hooker, right? Or laundering money or some shit, or buys his third fucking luxury jet airliner at their expense, right? Because it's about that. It's about community. These are good people. How often have you heard that? You know, there's good people at this church. Yeah, your church fucking like, your church like tries to pass laws to like break up families over like, you know, transgender children and shit like that. But there's good people at this church, right? That's what it's all about. That's what all of this shit is all about: community and feelings, right? Not about facts. And the shitty thing about it is that, these conspiracy theories that these people make up in order to keep themselves in the right have very detrimental effects on people, right? Hang on a second. My head itches. Excuse me, folks. There we go. Wearing these headphones. It's like, I need to get a haircut. That's why my head itches so much. But, these conspiracy theories, these misinformation that these people spread around, you know, damages and fucks up people's lives. Here's another example. Before Marjorie Taylor Greene was a House rep, she was an aspiring influencer. She was on a path to become sort of an Alex Jones kind of like conspiracy theory nut influencer person. Here's a video of her going around and harassing David Hogg. And this is on Marjorie Taylor Greene's, from what I can see, her official YouTube channel. I don't know if this is actually her channel, but let me put that down there for you guys. This is her channel. It says Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's got a check mark next to it that says it's verified. And this is her before she was, before she was in the Senate or in the House, right before she was in Congress. This is her.
Yeah. David, why are you supporting the red flag laws?
Let's make that a little small.
If Scott Peterson,
let's make this a little small so that YouTube doesn't think I'm ripping her off here, so we don't get flagged or copyrighted. But here she comes, chasing after David Hogg. David Hogg, of course, was a mass shooting survivor from the Parkland High School shooting in 2018, where 17 of his other students were killed. He's gone on, of course, to become a gun control activist, which is why Marjorie Taylor Greene is fucking with him. But here, let's go ahead and start that over.
David, why are you supporting the red flag laws? If Scott Peterson, the resource officer at Parkland, had done his job, then Nicholas Cruz wouldn't have killed anybody in your high school, or at least protected them. Why are you...
That's funny she should bring that up, right? She just said if the resource officer had done his job, nobody would have died. Funny story. See, that person she just mentioned, the resource officer, was a cop who was at the Parkland High School. He was a good guy with a gun. He ran away when the shooter showed up. Shooter comes, the good guy with a gun decided he wasn't going to be a good guy anymore, bails. Kind of exactly what happened in Uvalde. The Uvalde shooting that everybody is going crazy over. That happened a few weeks ago. And rightfully so, because, The police in that instance acted like a bunch of fucking cowards. The same thing happened at Parkland. There was a cop there. There was a man there with a gun, a resource officer with a gun whose job was to stop school shootings. And of course, he ran away. Why? Because cops are bastards. That's why, right? Because cops are bastards and they're more interested in saving their own skins than doing their fucking jobs and protecting everyone else. Cops are always big and brave, you know, when they're like threatening to beat the crap out of you at a traffic stop or some shit like that. They're all fucking tough then when they have like the complete full advantage and they know they can murder you and get away with it. But the minute that they're called to do their job, the reason why they're there is to put themselves in danger to protect other people. That's why cops exist, right? Now, I know all the people on the left are going to tell me, no, cops really exist in order to protect capital. And yeah, you're correct. You're correct. You're absolutely right. In real life, cops are there to protect capital, not people. But the bullshit reason they tell us that they exist is to protect us, right? But when it always comes down to them actually protecting us, they never fucking do it. And it's like, because you guys on the left are right. You're correct. It's all about protecting capital. I bet if there was like $1 million inside of that Uvalde fucking classroom, they would have burst right through, right? I mean, Jesus Christ. So that just kind of goes to show it's a myth that the whole good guy with the gun thing is a fucking myth. It's an absolute bullshit myth. And, Marjorie Taylor Greene just like reaffirmed that for us there. Thank you very much, Marjorie.
Supporting red flag gun laws that attack our Second Amendment rights. And why are you using kids to get as a barrier?
See, now, what did she just say? You're attacking our Second Amendment rights. You're using kids as a barrier, right? He was a survivor of a mass shooting. Someone broke into his high school with a gun, killed 17 people, right? She turns this around, says you're using children as a barrier. You're using children to further your own political aims. Just think about first off the logic involved there and just the utter disregard for human life, complete lack of empathy and compassion that line of reasoning takes. This is a guy that saw people murdered that he knew, that he hung out with, his friends, right? People that he went to class with every fucking day. I mean, even if they weren't his friends. Let's just say, for example, let's say they weren't his friends. Let's say he was just a guy and he didn't know any people that were killed. It's still fucking traumatizing to have somebody break into your school and start murdering people right in fucking front of you. Okay? That's, he was like, what, 17 when that shit happened? I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Can you imagine that? Right? Have a little bit of compassion. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Zero compassion. Marjorie Taylor Greene is an evangelical conservative Christian. She's one of these people that believes Jesus Christ is actual God and that we should love our brother as Jesus commands, right? She believes in Christianity, right? Her religion says you're supposed to love each other. You're supposed to have compassion for people. You're supposed to feed the hungry, give your money to the poor. Jesus himself says that, you're not supposed to be rich. Rich man will not get into heaven. That is actually in the Bible itself, right? So if you're super fucking rich, you're disobeying God according to the religion that Marjorie Taylor Greene believes in. Is she a millionaire now? She is, isn't she? Right? What are you doing with all this money, Marjorie? Right? How come you're not giving away everything? How come you're not selling everything you own and following Jesus? How come you're not doing what the goddamn Bible says you're supposed to fucking do? Right? How come you're showing the exact opposite of what the religion you say you believe in preaches that you should be doing? You're doing the exact opposite to this guy right here. Right? To someone who saw somebody getting his friends getting murdered right in front of his face, you're being a complete and total fucking bitch. If there is a hell, Marjorie Taylor Greene will be in it very soon.
Do you not know how to defend your stance? Look, I'm an American citizen. I'm a gun owner.
Do you not know how to defend your stance? See that? So she's basically, what is this video for? This video was to get, David Hogg angry so that she could get video of her ponying David Hogg and put it on her dipshit fucking YouTube channel and make a shitload of money. That's what it was for. And that this is the best thing that he could have done was just completely ignore her, walk away, right? Unfortunately, she went on to become a goddamn House representative. She is now in the government. She is now voting on laws, the same kind of laws that David Hogg is trying to get passed, right? Unfortunately for us. You know, how come David Hogg, dude? You should run for, if you ever, I know David Hogg's never fucks these video, but people like him, he and people like him should run for office. Fuck it. I mean, look what's happening on the other side. The other side is voting in the biggest like insane group of batshit crazy nutbags. This side of the funny farm. How come we can't put some of our activists in office as well? Can you imagine if David Hogg was a House rep? The kind of legislation he could introduce, right? I don't know why we're not doing this. It's because people on the left don't believe in voting. I don't want to like get into that again because I say that in every fucking stream. Every stream I always say you have to get out and vote, get out and vote. This is the reason why because look at who the right wing is putting up. We need good people in government in order to counter these crazy people, right? These fucking lunatics.
I have a concealed carry permit. I carry a gun for protection for myself, and you are using your lobby and the money behind it and the kids to try to take away my Second Amendment rights.
Can you conceal carry an AR-15? You see what she just said? I have a permit. I carry a gun with me for protection, right? David Hogg wants to have gun control for things like AR-15s, high capacity magazines, background checks, stuff like that, in order to stop crazy people from getting their hands on high powered weapons and going into schools and murdering people. What does that have to do with carrying a pistol for personal protection? Nothing. Zero at all. There hasn't been a mass shooting where someone who actually had a gun permit went in with a concealed carry pistol and shot 17 children. That's not how mass, like school shootings or mass shootings, they don't happen like that. Mass shootings are usually some fucking deranged, like, pathetic incel who, like, masturbates one too many fucking times and can't handle the fact that, like, Belle Delphine won't show her feet to him, right? So, like, he goes, flips his fucking lid, goes out and legally buys an AR-15 and then goes into a school and shoots 17 children with it. That's what fucking mass shooting is, right? Mass shooting isn't like someone who's like has like a concealed carry pistol and then maybe a rifle at home that goes hunting, once in a while or likes to go to the shooting range or whatever and like, keeps all of his guns locked up in a fucking in a nice gun safe so that nobody can steal them and has permits for all of them and stuff like that. And then carries it and has like a license to carry it and is responsible and keeps like the magazines at a different place than the actual guns. That's not a mass shooter. That's not the kind of person that David Hogg is trying to stop. He's trying to stop the insane people. He's trying to stop the fucking people who vote for Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? The fucking like fans of people like Nick Fuentes, you know, these like I mean that's what every single one of these fucking nutbags are, right? They're either like insane white nationalist like pieces of shit who want to start a race war like we saw at Buffalo, right? Or they're like insane conspiracy theorist fucking like bags of wacky nuts like we saw in Las Vegas, right? Or else they're fucking like these like asshole incel pieces of shit who like want to scare women into fucking them, right? Like we saw like in fucking, Elliot Rodger and shit. That's what these people are. Like that's what this last guy was. This one like dude at the fucking at the 4th of July march, guy that shot 6 people at a 4th of July march. The guy's like a fucking insane like incel. Like, ah, God. That's what they are. These are, they're all, how you don't see people like, I don't know, people who want to like say put up electric car charging ports around the country going on mass shootings. You don't see that, right? I think it happened once. I think one time about a decade ago, there was a baseball game where some politicians went to, and a guy who was a Bernie supporter went to go kill some Republicans and shot up. I think he shot Steve Scalise, a couple other people, and none of them actually died. So yeah, I'm not saying that leftists and liberals and shit never go on mass shootings because that wouldn't be true. It just seems to be overwhelmingly coming from the other side. You know, they seem to fit a pattern. They seem to be like 18 to 21-year-old disturbed white males that go on fucking murder sprees because they're not getting their dick sucked enough or something. Let's turn this shit off. Anyway, you get the idea. That's Marjorie fucking Taylor Greene there for you, right? Let me turn this fucking ridiculous thing off here. Fuck this bitch. Uh, anyway, my point there is that, this person is a senator, or not a senator, but a House rep now, right? And it just goes to show that it doesn't, this misinformation like this doesn't stop with just crazy tinfoil hat wearing nut bags, you know, fucking wacky wackaloons and shit on the internet. It just doesn't stop there. It doesn't just stop with like fucking like, wannabe like, LARPing fascists on 4chan either, right? It extends all the way to the highest fucking levels of our government now. We have people in Congress that believe this shit now, right? That video that I just showed you guys during in any sane reality would tank Marjorie Taylor Greene's political career. That would be it. If that would have come out, if that video would have come out even 10 years ago, the end. She would have probably have resigned. The pressure would have been on her from other Republicans, from Mitch McConnell and elsewhere, to resign because they would realize they would say that okay, well this person's a liability. And that just goes to show how much the fucking window's changed. It's like she's no longer a liability. She won her primary, like she easily won her primary, right? And they keep her around because she's like, making them money, right? You know what that looks like shit. Move all that. Right. Because she brings in like fucking millions and millions of dollars because all of this shit is so mainstream now. All of these conspiracy theories and shit are mainstream because of people like her. People like her and people like Alex Jones and, Donald Trump and all the other insane conspiracy theorists, right? They're playing with fire. The Republicans, they're playing with fire when they fucking play footsie with these insane people. More than once they've turned around and burned them. Anyway, so yeah, a big story that I've been so the main sort of main story here that I wanted to get to. Um, hey, Frater Perpetus Kyogi. Hello, how you doing? I have not seen you before. Thank you for joining. Anyway, so the sort of main story, the main attraction for tonight's stream that I wanted to talk about, of course, is this story about the 10-year-old girl who has been unnamed, who is had to go to another state to get an abortion, right? So this story came out last week. I actually talked about it in my last stream, actually, for a little bit. And I thought that this was just like an antidote, an antidote, not antidote, excuse me. Right? I thought this was just like anecdotal, because it was just a story that came out that's like, oh, well, look, this girl has to like go to another. It was in Ohio, right? Girl that lived in Ohio that had to go to, or not Ohio, was it what fucking state was she? She had to go to Tennessee. So was she in Missouri? Oh wait, nope, stop. Wrong link. It was this one. I think she was in. Yeah, no, it was Ohio. It was this 10-year-old girl who was in Ohio who had to go to a neighboring state in order to get an abortion because the Ohio trigger law is in effect. And although the law in Ohio does say that you can get an abortion if the mother's life is in danger, right? There is not current usable guidelines about what that actually means. And so a lot of doctors now in these red states where all these trigger laws went through are kind of afraid because they don't actually know what the law says and what the law doesn't say, right? And apparently this 10-year-old girl, so you have up until 6 weeks in Ohio to actually get like, the abortion or whatever. And she missed it by like 3 days. Like the trigger law came into effect 3 days before she was, able to go to the doctor, right? And so her doctor referred her to somebody else in a neighboring state in order to give her the health care she needs. Because, not only is it rape when it's a 10-year-old girl, let's not forget, 10-year-old is not able to consent. Not only is it that, but a 10-year-old girl also very much can be in danger if they're forced to carry a pregnancy to term. You haven't really gone through puberty yet, right? Not all the way. She may have started, um, and your hips usually widen a lot for women, young women when they go through puberty. So as a 10-year-old, her hips weren't wide enough, and so it could really lead to complications. Kid's head could get stuck in between her pelvis, whatever, shit like that. She could end up dead. So it was very much important to help this young girl terminate this pregnancy, right? So this is, of course, what I meant, a perfect example of what I meant when I said earlier that conservative policies result in harm, right? And because it is morally repugnant that a state or anyone would, support the idea that the state would force a 10-year-old rape victim to carry carry her rapist's child to term, a lot of people on the right were, sort of in denial that this story was even real. So there were a lot of people on the right who just completely like said the story was made up. And that was the big attack, right? And I wanted to show you some images here because I got some more images. These are from, let me just put these up here, all right? And let's see. These are some comments that I got here. Let me turn on my laptop window here. Let's turn that on. Let's make this full size so that you guys can read it, right? I took some screenshots of a bunch of this stuff because I want to kind of share with you. This is, now, okay, getting reading the comments is never a good idea because, especially the YouTube comments, they're usually like, cancer on a computer screen, right? But reading the comments is sort of a good barometer sometimes of getting the general sense of what people are believing or what people are supporting, right? The reason why it's because people will search out videos, like for example on YouTube or in Reddit, people will search out videos or subjects of things they're interested in and then leave comments accordingly. So if you see, like, say, a video that has, 128,000 views and a shitload of comments, you know that this is a subject that people are interested in. And it can be a good sort of, it's not definitive by any chance, but it could be a good sort of measuring stick to see where the general, um, I guess, public attitude is going, right? So, for example, anything you see in a YouTube comment, you're probably going to see similar sentiment expressed on Facebook, as well as, as well as Reddit, as well as Twitter, as well as any other place like that. So it can be helpful sometimes to kind of see, well, this is just to get a sense of where the arguments are going, what people believe, shit like that. So that's why I think these are relevant. That's why I think it's relevant. It's relevant sometimes just to kind of get an idea of what people out there are thinking. And this was on a video by a guy named View of the Fifth Column. If you've ever heard of him, he's a left-leaning sort of political commentator, and he has a very big audience of people who you would consider on the right wing. And when you look at the guy, the guy looks like a redneck, right? And that's part of his appeal, and that's part of his appeal is that he's very calm and measured. He doesn't like insult people. He doesn't use bad language, shit like that. And he's very calm, measured. He lays out the facts the right way, and he's very informative. He knows like a lot of stuff, like when it comes to the military and shit like that, and policing. And this was on one of his videos, so a lot of his audience are like people that he's a very effective at sort of converting people's political ideas, right? And like de-radicalizing um, you know alt-right people and shit like that. So that's why I found these on his story. So when you see if it says View, that's the guy they're referring to. And I just want to read a couple of these because this is because it's not just on YouTube where I saw this sort of sentiment. I saw this all over the place, on Reddit, on Facebook, elsewhere. So this is Art Patron Forever. The Ohio girl story is a hoax, just like the Jussie Smollett hate crime hoax, and the January 6th hearings are another propaganda theater hoax big lie. Yep. So you can tell this is definitely someone who's been, drinking the Kool-Aid. Another one by Art Patron, a response to someone else. Not at all the shame and disgrace is the propagandizing of a story about a child victim by those still lying about the story. So she just didn't believe completely at all that the 10-year-old girl abortion story was even real. She thought it was made up out of whole cloth. Josh T. Let's talk about how this story has not been verified and appears to have been fabricated from whole cloth. Another one. Josh T. Then this is a later down in the in the comment stream after it was proved later on that this story is true. Josh T. At the time of the posting, I said nothing. At the time of the post, nothing I said was wrong. The story had not been verified and was only sourced from one activist in Indiana. It's supposed to be Indiana. Also, the girl could have gotten it done in Ohio, so Bew is still full of shit there. The girl could not have gotten it done in Ohio. So this is a pretty good example of what happens when someone with faith is presented with facts that contradict their faith. They make excuses. So he said something wrong. He said up here that this story was not verified and appeared to be fabricated. And then, at the time of the post, nothing I said was wrong. But it was wrong. Right? It was 100% wrong. The story had not been verified. It was only sourced from one activist in Indiana. That was not true. That was not true at all. The girl could have gotten it done in Ohio, so Bew is full of shit there. That is also not true. The girl could not have gotten it done in Ohio. If she could have, she would have gotten it done in Ohio. She could not have gotten it done in Ohio because the law in Ohio says no exceptions for rape cases, no exceptions for incest. That's what it says in Ohio. It says the only way you can get an abortion is if your life is in danger. Doctors don't know what that means. Does that mean that it could kill you later? So if you have, do you have to wait 6 months? Or does it mean that they have to be physically dying on a table in front of you before you can undertake it? Nobody knows. So that's why this child was referred to a doctor in Indiana so that they can actually get the health care they needed. Right. Here's another one here. Let's move this one down. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Let's move that one down because we're not going to look at that yet. Here's another big one. Well, turns out the story of the 10-year-old raped girl was total bullshit. I like how they have to, like, censor themselves. It's like YouTube doesn't give a fuck if you swear. But anyway, way to go, liberals. Another fake story, considering that rape used as a reason for abortion doesn't even make up 1% of abortion cases. You're crying rape to demand abortion on demand doesn't work, capital letters. First of all, you don't punish an innocent person for another's crime, let alone an unborn baby. Second, if a 10-year-old was actually raped, the last thing you'd want to do is destroy evidence. This one is like the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, you know, way to go, liberals, fake story. Turns out it wasn't a fake story. Here we go. Considering that rape was used as a reason for abortion doesn't even make up 1% of abortion cases. Uh huh. What's 1% of abortion cases? What is that? Let's see. Let's see how many abortions there were in the United States. Right. Number of abortions. Let's do 2019. So that way we don't have any weird shit going on because of COVID, right? 625,346. That's how many abortions we had, right? In 2019. This is according to the CDC. Let's see. Now, here's the thing is that we will probably never know how many of those are actually due to rape, right? Because more often than not, women don't actually like report rape. Okay? Not really. But according to the USA Today, here we go. USA Today says that rape only accounts for 1% of abortion cases, incest for 0.5. So, using what the USA Today said, if they're actually true, if that's actually correct, right? Let's bust out our calculator here. Okay. So here's our calculator. Put that on the screen for you guys, right? So let's see, what did we say? 625,000 number of abortions or total. Okay, according to the CDC, 625,346 times 0.01, because that's 1%, equals 6,253.46. Did I do that right? I think I did that right. 625. It's always good to check your math, right? 0.46 times 1% equals 6,253.46. So that's how many, according to what this person says, right? If it's actually 1%, that's how many rape babies the government will force women to carry every year. Just using 2019 as a barometer. If 2019, all things remaining equal, that's how many it happens. So I guess just fuck those 6,225 people, like women, right? Just who cares about their rights? Fuck them. Doesn't matter. It's only 1%. I really like this line. First of all, you don't punish an innocent person for another's crime. How? Let alone an unborn baby. So how are they being punished? Is the 10-year-old girl being punished? What do they fucking mean by this? Are they saying that the baby's being punished? Right? Babies are not people. Okay? Unborn babies. Let me qualify that. Okay? Unborn babies are not people. You're not a person until you are born. You do not have rights until you are born, right? If you're inside of another person, you are dependent on that person to live. You cannot survive outside of that person. Guess what? You're not an actual full person yet. Okay? That's bullshit. That is the fundamental difference here. between what these people believe and what the actual facts are. All right. So, and then I don't get this last line. If a 10-year old was actually raped, the last thing you want to do is destroy evidence. How the fuck is getting an abortion destroying the evidence? You have a record that the shit happened. You could take DNA samples from it. Dumbest shit ever. This is what we're dealing with. This is how we're dealing with, like, these are the people that are like they're like fucking like weird ass religious fanatic zombies. Like it's sort of like when somebody's too fucking stupid, like even if you try to explain to them, they don't have the mental capacity to like understand. It's like half of it is like they don't want to understand, and then the other half is they're too fucking dumb, they're too fucking brainwashed. Like, I don't know. Our country is so fucked up. I don't understand it. And like I said before, this stuff doesn't stay with just the crazy people. This is, of course, Jim Jordan. A tweet from Jim Jordan here, who was Representative Jim Jordan, right? Another lie, anyone surprised? Basically saying that the 10-year-old rape baby story is a lie. This is a guy in our government, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, a House representative who is voting on the laws to decide if women are allowed to have bodily autonomy or not. This is one of those people. Even someone like this falls for the propaganda, right? The crazy people are running the fucking asylum. A tweet like this should end Jim Jordan's career. It should. I mean, I don't know. It's absolutely like, and the thing is, if it was a Democrat, it probably would, right? Um, you know, there was a guy who ran for president. What the fuck was his name? Howard Dean. Do you remember Howard Dean back in 2004? Howard Dean was up and coming. He was most likely going to get the nomination. And he was at a rally. Howard Dean did this. Let's turn this fucking shit off over here, right? Let's turn this off. I always like to use this example because I think it's relevant, right? Howard Dean was at a rally. He was very excited and he was like talking to people and he goes, something like, "We're going to like make it. We're going to take it all the way to the White House." And then he did this little scream and he went, "Bah!" Like that. Right. In fact, you know what? Let's look that up. Let's look up the Howard Dean scream. Okay. And I just want to, because this is relevant, you know, I just want to look this up. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. Quiet. This is Howard Dean. Let's put this over here and let's go back to our YouTube window here. Let's make this a little smaller over here. Da, da, da. There we go. Nope, wrong one, damn it. I keep making the wrong one big and small there. I should just there's ways to make presets. I should just do that. I don't know. I'll quit being lazy one of these days, folks. This is the Howard Dean scream. Okay.
Well, you guys, you have already got the picture here. I was about to say, I'm sure there's some disappointed people here. You know what? You know something? You know something? If you had told us 1 year ago that we were going to come in third in Iowa, we would have given anything for that. And you know something? You know something? Not only are we going to New Hampshire, Tom Harkin, we're going to South Carolina and Oklahoma and Arizona and North Dakota and New Mexico. And we're going to California and Texas and New York. And we're going to South Dakota and Oregon and Washington and Michigan. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House. Yeah!
That was it. That little this right here. Right?
White House! Yeah!
That's the Howard Dean primal scream, right? That little yell, that's all it took to ruin Howard Dean's career. Howard Dean lost after that. The media, it was on every channel. They played that little scream over and over and over and over again for weeks. That's all people talked about, right? And by the time the next primary came around, Howard Dean was out. The end. That's all it takes to destroy a Democrat, right? To destroy a liberal, to destroy a progressive. All it takes is screaming the wrong way. In the meantime, someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene can go around and harass a fucking school shooting victim and easily win her primary back, right? Fucking absolutely insane, you know. Jim Jordan can say tweet incredibly vile shit about a 10-year-old rape victim and nobody bats a fucking eye, right? That's how much the window is shifted, right? Now imagine if that was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that tweeted that. What do you think would happen? She'd probably be forced to resign. All right. Let's keep that in mind here. That's, the right wing doesn't give a shit about any of this stuff. They have no shame anymore. Like, shaming doesn't work anymore. You know, it's because like I keep saying over and over again, like the wackaloons have fucking taken over the crazy ship. Anyway, so getting back to our story here, right? That was the reaction against the 10-year-old rape 10-year-old girl rape story, was that it was fake. It was all made up. It was all bullshit. Lo and behold, the person who actually did the crime gets arrested. Turns out it wasn't fake. It was 100% true, right? And now all these people have to backtrack, right? So first off, we're seeing is that, well, apparently the guy that actually did it was, an undocumented immigrant, right? So now the attack is that, okay, well, it's an illegal alien. So that they found that angle. So now all the right wings on, on Fox News and shit like that, on that, they're saying, oh, this guy's an illegal alien, blah, 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 whatever. So they always find an angle to attack. They always have to find an angle in order to piss off their base even more. And they're all like sort of, conveniently forgetting that they said that the story wasn't real to begin with. That's the first thing, right? Another thing, more, but that's not enough. Now you're seeing calls on the right wing for people who are attacking the doctor that actually gave the girl an abortion, right? Fake stories have come out about this doctor, about how she supposedly broke the law. I have a video here that I want to play for you guys, right? Because this is, I think, interesting. Here's another video. Let me just cue this up. This is from well, I don't know if we should actually watch this. I don't know. Should we bother watching this? I think I want to fast forward to where it actually shows. There's a video portion of. Here we go. Here it is. Give me 1 second here. At 2:58. So these are people debating. This is Representative Swalwell from California, who is questioning the Republican witness, right, when it comes to this particular case. And I thought that this was actually kind of interesting. So let me make this here for you guys, make that a little bigger. And let's listen to Representative Swalwell from California bust some ass.
Witness.
Ms. Foster, you think a 10-year-old would choose to carry?
In the 10-year-old case, first of all, the Ohio...
No, my question is, would a 10-year-old choose to carry a baby?
In the Ohio case, the Ohio Attorney General said that abortion would have been justified.
Focus on the question, please. Would a 10-year-old choose to carry a baby?
I cannot.
Do you think a 10-year-old should choose to carry a baby?
I believe it would probably impact her life, and so therefore it would fall under any exception and would not be an abortion.
Wait, it would not be an abortion if a 10-year-old with her parents made the decision not to have a baby that was the result of a rape?
If a 10-year-old became pregnant as a result of rape and it was threatening her life, then that's not an abortion. So it would not fall under any abortion restriction in our nation.
Ms. Warbelow, are you familiar with disinformation?
Yes, I am.
Did you just hear some disinformation?
Yes, I heard some very significant disinformation.
Why don't you tell me about that?
Yes, an abortion is a procedure. It's a medical procedure that individuals undergo for a wide range of circumstances, including because they have been sexually assaulted, raped in the case of the 10-year-old. It doesn't matter whether or not there is a statutory exemption. It is still a medical procedure that is understood to be an abortion.
There you go. These are official hearings. Official hearings they're having, talking about this particular abortion and, exceptions to it. And just right there, that was the person that talked, the one lady that spoke here. This one, right? This lady right here, Catherine Glenn Foster, is the official witness that the GOP brought up to these hearings, right? And basically you bring like an official witness there in order to talk about shit. So, in order to basically get your political points across, right? So this is supposed to be like an expert witness kind of thing. Let's turn this shit off. Let's turn this fucking ridiculous shit off here. And you just heard it right there. Oh, well, a 10-year-old girl who gets raped and gets an abortion, that's not actually an abortion. That's all the exceptions would appeal to that. But in Ohio, there actually is no exception for that. In Ohio, there's no exception for rape or incest. In Ohio, that is still counts as an actual abortion. And I really wanted to show that clip because that kind of shows So, yeah, I wanted to show you another video, here in a minute. But another little bit of misinformation that's been going around about this story is that the doctor who performed the abortion, they're starting to focus in on her. And it was reported that the doctor did not report the case, right? That the doctor, because in Tennessee, or not Tennessee, yeah, Tennessee, you're supposed to, or sorry, not Tennessee, in Indiana, right? You're supposed to report any abortions that come in of anyone that's under a certain age because it's rape. It's obviously rape, right? I mean, 99% of the time it'll be rape unless it's like, one of their friends or something, right? Who's the same age as them or whatever. So, and the story came out, the rumor came around that this doctor did not report the story, right? And so I have I have a video here of Fox News, who's basically feeding us a line of shit about this. Let me just bring this over here. Sorry about all that, folks. Sorry about the last 5 minutes and how it was all funky. But let's watch this video of Fox News host attacking the abortion doctor. Let me put this down in the chat for you guys before we do it so that you can follow along if you want. And here we go.
Caitlin Bernard, the abortion doctor who performed the operation in Indiana, has a legal requirement to report the abortion to both Child Services and the state's health department because a 10-year-old isn't able to give consent and is therefore a rape victim. And from what we
I like how they're very, concerned about that all of a sudden. You know, they're very much concerned. Oh yeah, the 10-year-old can't give consent. Oh, she's a victim. All that shit. When 2 days before they were like, you know, claiming this whole thing wasn't even real, that this victim was like, that it was all a story made up by liberals or whatever in order to like, I don't know, kill all the little baby fetuses or some shit so Jesus won't come back or whatever. Such fucking like, such two-faced snakes. Moving on.
What we can find out so far, this Indiana abortion doctor has covered this up. Failure to report is nothing new, though, for Dr. Bernard. According to reporting from PJ Media, she has a history of failing to report child abuse cases. And our sources, as Trace mentioned, are telling Fox that Dr. Bernard's employer, Indiana University Health, has already filed a HIPAA violation against her. So, is a criminal charge next?
So, wanted to bring this up, right? This video here, because this is one of the ways that the right wing is attacking this doctor, right? Apparently, the district attorney in what the hell was the guy's name? The district attorney in Indiana says that they're going to open an investigation. His name is Todd Rokita, I think. Turns out, however, that this abortion doctor actually did report this as needed, as is required by the law. Here is an actual news article. IU Health Dr. Bernard complied with patient privacy laws regarding 10-year-olds abortion. Right? In Indiana, OBGYN Dr. Caitlin Bernard has been caught in a national political debate after discussing the abortion she provided to a 10-year-old who reported a rape in Ohio. Public attacks were hurled at Bernard with accusations of non-compliance with state and patient privacy laws. Now, Bernard's employer, UI Health, said that the hospital system conducted an investigation and found she was compliant with patient privacy laws. So, lo and behold, she actually did obey the law. Very strange. Here's the link to that news article as well. So, was Fox News wrong? Did they not do their investigation? Did they just find some fucking ridiculous bullshit source on the internet and not vet it completely? Or did they make it up out of whole cloth? It's either it's one of those options. They either made that up, they either did that, they just didn't investigate themselves. We know they didn't do that. Or they just saw some other place, they just got some misinformation from the internet, right? Maybe from somebody's Twitter account, or maybe from some other bullshit wannabe propaganda mill that publishes fake stories and just ran with it instead of checking out for themselves whether or not it was actually true. Fox News was spreading misinformation. Whether they did it on purpose or not, we'll never be able to know. Something tells me they did do it on purpose. And, but what does that do? That's sort of, first off, what they did is worse than just spreading lies. They basically doxed this doctor, put her name in her her name and her employer out there, so now everybody can find her, right? And now this doctor is going to start getting death threats. That's what's going to happen, right? This doctor is going to start getting death threats the same way that, say, Bill O'Reilly sort of put the laser focus on George Tiller. So those of you guys that don't know Bill O'Reilly, if you're too young to have been around when Bill O'Reilly was the top dog on Fox instead of Tucker Carlson, be happy, because Bill O'Reilly was sort of like a crotchety old man version of Tucker Carlson, but essentially the exact same shit. posts random, stupid, ridiculous bullshit that has no basis in fucking reality in order to piss off Republicans and get more views. That's essentially what Bill O'Reilly did, you know, with a big heaping helping of fucking racism on the side. That's Bill O'Reilly's, you know, he's the exact same fucking thing as Tucker Carlson, the same thing as Sean Hannity, the same thing as Laura Ingraham. All of these people, they're all doing the same shit that Bill O'Reilly did. But Bill O'Reilly was special because Bill O'Reilly would focus in on individual people. For example, Dr. Tiller, who was a provider, an abortion provider, who would do late-term abortions, right? And Bill O'Reilly took Dr. Tiller and basically vilified him repeatedly, over and over, called him Tiller the baby killer. And lo and behold, one of his less than stable viewers went out and murdered George Tiller, killed him. Of course, Bill O'Reilly took zero responsibility for that at all. And yes, it wasn't Bill O'Reilly's, he didn't cause this guy to go kill him. Bill O'Reilly didn't say, "Hey, go get a gun and shoot this abortion doctor." But he might as well have signed his death warrant, you know, because he's the one that put this guy's name out there in order to get views. He's the one that was, focused the fucking right-wing hate laser on this doctor who was providing needed medical procedures, The thing about George Tiller, is that he wasn't just handing out abortions like they were candy. You know, he would do late term abortions are done for very specific reasons because late term abortions are mostly illegal in most states. I think even in California, you can't just get a late term abortion for no other reason besides the fact that the mother's life is in danger. That's really the only reason in most places in this country. I don't want to say all places, I don't know. But in most places in this country, in most states in this country, you can't get a late term abortion. Late term abortion is like 7 to 8 months, right? You can't do that unless the woman's life is in danger, unless, it looks like that the fetus is like deformed and is going to be like born like brain dead or some shit like that, you know. And these are the cases in which late term abortion is legal. The child is born without a skull, that kind of thing. You know, is if you have like stillbirth shit like that. And these are the cases in which he would engage in these things. 100%, 100% legal, right? That's what abortions are supposed to be for in those cases. You don't do it unless like something really went wrong. Bill O'Reilly got that doctor killed. The same shit's going to happen to this abortion doctor too. If they continue to attack this abortion doctor, if they continue to put her name out there, where she lives, who her employer is, stuff like that, she's going to be in danger also. She's probably already getting death threats. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it at all, right? So, anyway, also the Texas, let's see, what do we got here? So the guy that, sorry, we'll move on to that in a minute. The guy that actually perpetrated the crime, Gerson Fuentes, is 27. He's been arrested. He's held on a $2 million bond. He's confessed to sexually assaulting this 10-year-old girl at least twice. Right. And turns out that story was 100% true. And it just goes to show, how much like suffering this girl is going through now. It's one day her name's going to come out. She's probably going to become a focus. I mean, there's probably a reason why they didn't release her name, because they don't want these crazy people finding out who she is, showing up at her fucking house, threatening her family. And it's probably going to happen. You can't keep anything secret nowadays. They already know who her mother is. Right? They're doing interviews with her fucking mother and shit, so it's gonna come out. It's just I don't know. I just can't emphasize this enough. Misinformation like this can destroy people's lives. And just wanted to end on that little note, about this abortion doctor who was murdered, George Tiller. This is ultimately the risk when it comes to these things. This is why we have to fight back about stuff like this. When you see somebody posting misinformation, you need to fight back against it. You need to call it out, report it. Report it for being fake, right? Downvote it. Do anything you can to get that off of there, right? Because the tech companies aren't going to fucking stop it. You know, I think like what YouTube and Twitter, they put up warnings. This may not be true. Nobody pay it. That's like putting a warning on a pack of cigarettes. Nobody gives a fuck about that. What? Oh, may cause emphysema. Whatever. Give me two. Right? It's the same kind of. It's like no. It has to come from us. It has to come from us. It has to be, an effort from the grassroots up. We have to put pressure on the tech companies. We have to put pressure on the people actually doing it, and fight back against misinformation. Anyway, Cody Course, thanks for joining. Hey Mark, do you think that conservatives have done a fantastic job at blurring the lines between official talk on immigration and racism? 100% they have. Yes, 100%. And the thing about it is it's all the same shit that they've been saying for decades when it comes to that. Illegal immigrants are criminals. They'll steal your job. They do drugs. They deal drugs, this and that. If you go back to like, the fucking 1860s, the 1870s, well, I guess not that early. Maybe more like 1880s, right? Right around then, people said the same thing about Chinese immigrants. They'll steal your job, you know, that they'll come over and they only require an egg and a bowl of rice a day to survive so that they can undercut us and work for less money. That I'm not even kidding. You can see there's a book by it's called A People's History of the United States. Very I think it's fucking was it Howard Zinn that wrote that? Who wrote that? Or was it Noam Chomsky, I think? I think it's Noam Chomsky, right? History of the United States. It is written by Howard Zinn. Yeah, definitely definitely check out that book. I haven't read it in years. I mean, I read it like fucking 15 years ago. But very interesting stuff. There's a whole section on immigration in the 19th century, and you'll notice the exact same arguments that they used back then are what they use against immigrants today. They're dirty, they're criminals, they'll fucking steal our women, they'll undercut us at our jobs, shit like that. And it's all racism. It's all it really is. I mean, because if you really think about that, what they're really complaining about is, they'll outcompete us. That's what it really is. When you hear like someone, oh, illegal alien is gonna steal my job, you know, what does that really mean? It really means that I can't compete with this person. They'll work harder than me for less. That's what they're really saying, you know. Um, so the first off, that's complete bullshit. So then they lean, the racist angle. Like even way back then, there was like the whole thing with like opium dens. You know, Chinese immigrants are like drug addicts. They're bringing opium into the country, and they're enticing away white women. I'm not even kidding. Same shit that you hear. That was the attack against Latinos and marijuana in the 1930s. It was that black people and Latinos smoke marijuana and they're gonna like use it to drug white women, right? So it's the same racist fucking arguments over and over. It's definitely true. Anyway, anti-vaxxers are jumping on this story. Uh, hey, you mean the 10-year-old girl rape story? I don't doubt it at all. Did you get my article and comment on COVID-19 vaccines and messing up menstrual cycles? No, I didn't. I'll look through. Which let me know which stream you put that on, and I'll definitely go back and read that. So, I do try to read all the comments I can on every stream. I mean, I'm not always successful though, so yeah, let me know whatever stream it was, and I'll definitely go and read it. Anyway, guys, time flies. I did not realize it was 1 o'clock, so I guess we got to end this. Um, but yeah, I don't know, man. This is we really need to do something about this. Like, this is a serious problem. Misinformation is a serious problem in this country, and I don't know. It's very. I don't have a lot of confidence in the United States to survive as a nation, to be honest. I really don't. I really think that and it's not like we don't have examples of huge countries like ours collapsing. I mean, look, the Soviet Union collapsed. There's no reason why the same sort of collapse that happened to the Soviet Union couldn't happen to the United States. You know, I don't think if that were to happen, let's say that the government collapsed because of, implosion because of all of these things, not enough money, etc., blah, 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 huge debt, wars and all this other shit. And it just completely collapsed. And then, the government had to reform and we had to have a constitutional convention because that's what it says in the Constitution. If this were to happen, you need to have a constitutional convention. I don't think what emerges from that can be called the United States any longer. I don't know. I'm afraid of that. I think in a lot of ways, it could be a lot better, but in real life, it's going to turn out to be 20 times worse, is what I think, because I don't have confidence in our leaders, and I really don't have confidence in the entire Republican Party to act in good faith and for their citizens' well-being. I really don't. Anyway, guys, and misinformation just hurries that along. I'm gonna go ahead and end this because I'm getting hungry. So, anyway, still don't know why my little live stream preview was all fucked up, but apparently we're streaming fine, so that must be a bug with YouTube. Anyway, guys, let me just go ahead and do my final ending speeches and stuff like that. Thank you all again for, coming. Really appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. I know that's a dumb thing to say, and you're probably tired of hearing it, but it actually works whenever I do say that. People actually do it. I really appreciate it, you know. Um, Let me just pull up all of my social media stuff here. UCD, open that. So if you like what I do and you want to, you know, help me out here and, if you want to give me money for what I do, you can buy something on my Etsy shop. This is my Etsy shop here. I sell prints, I sell comics. This is a recent one, sort of a Lovecraft kind of thing. Each one of these are like sort of handmade, hand-stained ones. They all come out a little unique. So if you like what I do and you want to give me some cash, please check me out on Etsy. If you like my artwork, I have a webcomic. It has ninjas, it's got talking ducks, it's got people getting punched in the face. Check me out there at hoanja.com. If you want to see more of my artwork, you can check me out on DeviantArt. I post all of the artwork that I do on the channel up here, along with my webcomic and some other things. Here's actually some fan art I did for a guy named Cirrus on YouTube. He's actually really cool. So you can see all these things that I have on my DeviantArt channel. And then I also have let me see, UCD videos. This is my other YouTube channel here, UCD videos. I do toy reviews. I do movie reviews and game reviews. I haven't really done a lot with this channel recently, but I have plans for it. So please check me out there. I'll put all this stuff down in the chat. Where is it? There we go. So let me put all this stuff down here for you guys in the chat before I end it. Thank you all once again for coming. Thank you, Frater Petus. Sorry, I still can't really pronounce your name. But, good to see new people. Really appreciate that. Cody Course, great to hear from you as always. You're awesome. Adversary Fandin, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. And everybody else who stopped in. We actually got a little bit of traffic on this one, which is actually kind of nice. So that's cool. Really appreciate everybody. You guys are great. And I will see you all next. Actually, no, I won't see you next week. Next week is Comic Con, and I'm going to Comic Con. So I might make like a video, but there won't be a live stream next Saturday. I don't know. Maybe I'll try to do one before that. But yeah, I'm gonna be gone next week to go to San Diego Comic Con. It's gonna be awesome. Anyway, I'm out of here, guys. Adios.